Is she, though, joining us right now?
Hey,
the analyst for your Sacramento Kings. Busy analyzing, momming, spousing, and surviving.
Oh, yeah. Lots going on.
Surviving. The survivors. The one, the only Kayte Christensen. Good morning, Kayte.
Good morning, fellas.
How you doing?
Fantastic. How are you?
I don't know. I'm good. Jason, how are you?
Yeah, pretty good. Could be better, but I'm good.
I could be, sometimes I get a little sore in the morning.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Just by waking up?
Just by waking up. Just getting older and all that.
It's age, Dave. It's age.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Well, I got a big birthday coming up. Do you happen to remember my 40th birthday, Kayte? You remember the mood I was in?
Terrible. Abysmal.
That wasn't like a day. You were in that for a while.
I was in that for a while, and I'll give Kayte all the credit in the world. She did everything she could to cheer me up, got me a super sweet present, and was just trying to be a good friend. I was just not having it. Was not. It's going to be worse.
Yeah, you were. Yeah, it was a deplorable, reaction to turning 40.
It was deplorable in the sense, everybody leave me alone. I'm going to be in my room for a couple of days. How do you think it's going to go?
Yeah, as if the gift of another birthday is something to be really upset about.
Oh, come on. How do you think it's going to be this August when that birthday happens and my daughter's going to UCLA a month later?
Did she decide?
All but she's got a couple more
Dave's
left.
Decided for her.
Yeah, I got her first. She has a pennant. That was the first thing. She got a pennant.
So it's official then.
She still got a couple more this week, but Kayte, I think UCLA is the one. Sorry,
that is a big deal. Big deal.
So I'll need all my friends this August because I'm going to be catatonic. Nobody cares about that. Everybody cares about the Kings. Kayte, it's a little different for you last night, right? TNT games, you get a chance to, and not that you're not watching the game, obviously, when you work, you're immersed in the game when you work, but do you get a little bit of a different perspective? Maybe even sometimes, I don't know if enjoyable is the right word, but just a different look when you're not having to work during the game?
No, I mean, it's the same. It's just, I still look at the game the same, but obviously not calling it. So it doesn't change much for me other than the sense that I didn't have to do hair and makeup and go to work.
I don't think the results of maybe the last couple games are that surprising, but it's, I think Doug Christie and a couple players have been interviewed after each game, Kayte, have talked about there are some really good moments in these games, but equally there's moments that are causing them to not beat these good teams. I could tell there's some frustration, but Doug is trying to grasp and find longer stretches of those good moments. Is that feel to you kind of what this team is still missing this far into the season, is finding more of those long stretches of good moments?
I think that the hardest part about this is, when you kind of look back at everything that's happened since late December, Doug taking over as interim, he started off with one team, it went on a 7-game win streak. Then, a trade deadline happens and he has a completely different team. A coach leaves and, obviously Luke Laux, was kind of heading up the defense, and he leaves and takes a job at Florida State. And, then there's injuries and all these things. There's been plenty of change and adversity that this team has had to kind of endure over, the last month and a half, 2 months or so. And the reality of it is it's not shocking when you take a step outside and look in to think, wow, this team is going to struggle at times because they haven't built any true chemistry. Chemistry is built over the course of a couple seasons. It's built over training camp. And there's not a lot of continuity in that sense, given the circumstances. And so, and there's always stuff too that's going on in players' lives that people are not privy to. And there's been sicknesses. There's been, Zach left for, the team for one game for personal reasons. And, people are dealing with stuff, and all of this, all of these elements factor in to the end result. And I don't think it's a lack of desire or a lack of effort or a lack of caring. It's you play the circumstances, and the circumstances have not been easy.
Kayte Christensen joining us. Kayte, when I've talked about this on the show a bunch. When I look at Oklahoma City's starting lineup, they obviously have the likely MVP, but when you look at their lineup as a whole, if you were to grade them all in a vacuum, just give them, talent points or whatever, and you look at the Kings starting lineup, whether it's Monk or Sabonis or Levine or DeRozan or whoever, Keegan, they're not that far off. They're both incredibly talented, but Oklahoma City is just so much better. They are clearly a far superior team. Is it fit? Is it role? Is it a combination of things? What is the difference when the talent isn't that far off?
Well, it goes back to circumstances, right? Oklahoma City is a young team that has been developed together over the course of multiple seasons. And they have improved every single year because they've had time to gel, to, have very defined roles. All of that stuff truly matters, and I've always been a proponent of, like, the best talent doesn't mean you have the best team. It just doesn't work that way because so many different things factor into it. To me, the biggest one is time together, right? And right now, as the roster stands for Sacramento, it's a fairly new roster, and they've gotten older, right? These are all experienced guys. And I think sometimes that's a challenge too, because it's not that it's for lack of talent, but it's also, roles are really, really important. And what are the roles defined? Is the style, is the system, is all of that truly defined? And is your philosophy firmly in place? When you look at it and all of the things I mentioned, in the first question about the amount of change that's happened in the last 2 months, that's a huge obstacle to overcome, especially in the Western Conference when you're scratching and clawing to try and be in a position to position yourself into the postseason. Like, it's brutal. It's absolutely brutal. So you look at a team like Oklahoma City last night, very, very defined roles, time together, chemistry, philosophy, all of that firmly in place, and a solid foundation that they have been able to build on over the course of time.
Kayte, we know they were just taking on just a brutal portion of the schedule. Record, it lightens up, but that doesn't mean, it can't be a group that's that confident going into Portland tomorrow. But you can get in the confidence back pretty quickly. What do you expect now that the Kings see a little bit of a lighter portion, at least record-wise, of teams they're playing?
Well, I mean, there has to be motivation, right? And it's crazy how matchups really, really matter. And Portland has been a tough matchup for them. Kind of like you look back to last year and how New Orleans was just a team that the Kings could not figure out a way to get a win against. And it was purely about matchups and the struggle from that component. And so, Portland is a team that they have a ton of length, a ton of, athletic leaping players that are very much embedded in Chauncey's, system of defense and intensity and physicality. And they have made massive progress throughout the course of the season. And they're not an easy team to get a win against. Their record might not reflect it, but they're in games. You know what I mean? They are a challenge night in and night out. So, I think more than anything, it's for the Kings. It's about, to a certain degree, when you've struggled over a homestand like the Kings have, purely based on, in my opinion, the strength of schedule. And we knew this with about 15 or 20 games left. The Kings had the second toughest schedule remaining in the NBA. Like, that is just reality. It's part of the reality of the NBA. And so when you look at kind of the stretch ahead, sometimes even being on the road is a gift in that sense, because the games are coming quick on this road trip as well. There's not a 2-day break in between any. It's like you've got back-to-backs, you've got a day off in between. The travel is going to be intense. You're going from Florida, you're going to be in Cleveland and Indiana and Charlotte and Washington, D.C. And, there is a legit, travel component to it. But I think a lot of times when you're kind of on that schedule, you're on the road together, it can really be a benefit in a way where it forces you to kind of come together in a bit. You're focused more because there's less distractions. And then, level of competition record wise is not as difficult as what we've seen on this homestand. So you want to believe that all of those things factored in are going to bring about a shift in momentum. And the crazy thing about momentum in this league is that, you can lose 5 in a row and then you can go on a 7-game win streak. It happens all the time. So, if you're the Kings sitting right now, the reality of the situation is you have to create and manufacture some momentum. And once you kind of can maybe get a couple under your belt, that carries, and that really helps you, moving forward in the remainder of the season.
That's a good way for us to wrap up, because Thursday against Portland, and then as you just mentioned, you're on the road for 6, East Coast, all over the place. So on one hand, Kayte, just as you unpack your bag and get used to being home, you go on the road for a 6-game set, but then you don't have to travel again till October. That's got to feel nice.
You're brutal.
Just what? I'm saying
brutal.
You're done traveling till next season. That's
hopefully there's some postseason travel.
No, you might go to Phoenix. I mean, whatever. You used to live there.
Wow.
I'm just saying. That's Kayte Christensen, analyst for your Sacramento Kings. Good luck on the call Thursday. Have a good trip. Make sure you pack everything correctly, and we'll talk to you soon.
All right. Bye, fellas.
Bye. That's Hey, one great thing about that road trip, because of the way baseball's coming and March Madness and all that, we've got a whole week. Dude, Saturday's game against Orlando is at 2 p.m. And then it's all like 4 o'clock starts. Yes. Sunday, a 3 o'clock start. So it'll go right into the rest of the sports. It's
normalize afternoon basketball games.
That's what I'm saying. But then you get people that work till 5. They're like, thanks a lot, Chris, who gets off at 10 a.m.
I'm talking about the weekends.
Oh, yeah. No, I'm with you on that.
Yes.
We'll take a break.
I like this.
When we come